Begin here. President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa admits unemployment is among the many issues affecting the residents of Sedibeng. But there is a plan to create 170,000 jobs in that region over a 5-year period. Ramaphosa was joined by several government ministers and other senior officials. The Imbizo centered around improving service delivery. eNCA senior reporter Aviwe Mtila on the ground. Just a short while ago, he spoke to Praveen Gordhan, the Minister of Public Enterprises, zooming in on some of the key challenges that the local residents of Sedibeng are facing around power supply, electricity supply, among other issues. Aviwe, I understand you've got another minister with you this hour.
Yes, I've got Malindiwe Zulu. That is, of course, the Minister of Social Development. As one of the conversations that were deliberated on here is the high unemployment rate. It's 64% unemployment rate at the Sedibeng district municipality, the highest in Gauteng. One of the issues that were at the fore, of course, alongside that was the water issues, which we do understand sewage described as flowing into the Vaal River. And of course, this is where, just in October last year, we brought you the mother of all potholes. A year later, nearly a year later, that road where these citizens and residents were swimming in is still in that same condition. In fact, I want to bring in now the Social Development Minister just to touch on some of these critical issues that were raised up in the Imbizo. Mama, thank you for joining us at eNCA. But we're talking about 64% unemployment rate. It looks like those social development grants will need to be heightened. How do we tackle this high number of unemployment, ma'am?
Thank you, Aviwe, and thank you to and good afternoon to your viewers. In order for us, for instance, as the Department of Social Development, to reduce the number of people who are getting the 350 social relief of grant, it means there must be a creation of jobs. It means the economy must grow. I'm hoping that all the projects and programs that the President, but as well as the Premier spoke about here, from an industrialization point of view, from a bit of agricultural point of view, from an infrastructure development point of view, will be able to absorb the people we are talking about. Because if we are talking about 64% of unemployment, that 64% of unemployment are the people who are applying for the 350. And unfortunately, those who are applying for the 350 are able-bodied who can still be able to work. So if the plans that have been presented here, and I'm hopeful that the plans that are presented here will be implemented, it's of interest to us as the Department of Social Development, because it's beyond just giving people the 350. We have been saying as a department, nobody wants to live on a 350. We just give the 350 to those who are unemployed, just for them to put something on the table, but that is not adequate. The best thing we can do also as a Department of Social Development is to give a focus on available job opportunities. That is why as a department we are also working with other Department of Labor and other relevant departments to say, now we have this database. This database is telling us of young people who are unemployed, people between the ages of 45 to almost 59. They have no jobs. And we are not only going to be giving the 350, we also want to make sure that we are involved in ensuring that government finds the jobs. Even the private sector, we are saying to them, let us work together so that we can reduce all these people from the 350, because when people calculate it, the 350 comes from taxpayers. It's not to say we're getting it from anywhere. So the private sector, government must assist the Department of Social Development to reduce the numbers of people who are getting 350, because if they are in a job, they'll get way more than the 350.
I wonder then if these discussions happen. I mean, we saw almost every minister, provincial leadership, as well as the local government leadership here. Are these issues discussed in terms of creating those 170,000 jobs that have been promised over the next 5 years, or is it merely selling our people dreams?
Well, look, the discussions are there. They happen all the time. The plans are actually there. And I'm tired even myself of keeping on saying it's the implementation. The fact of the matter, who is supposed to implement? One of the reasons why the Imbizo brings ministers, deputy ministers, as well as local people, including the officials. It is for the officials to also listen, because the political will is there. Now, we can't be talking about it's not possible to implement, the difficulty is in the implementation. We are, for instance, talking about a road that you are saying people were swimming in that pothole for the past year, and the pothole is not there. So the president must crack the whip, the mayors and everybody must crack the whip. They must be able to go back to that place and say, we're giving you 2 weeks, 3 weeks to fill up the whole. And I think our biggest problem in government is consequence management. If we cannot implement the consequence management of making sure that when the president is here, he has said to the people, these are the things that are going to happen. The president must demand for a report. I, for instance, here I was asked a question of the social workers, and I arrived in the department. The issue of social workers was a heavy one. But the good thing is that the department did train the social workers, but could not absorb all the social workers. We then as a department started having conversations with other departments to say we cannot be the only ones who are hiring or employing the social workers, because the police needs social workers, education needs social workers in schools, many departments need social workers. Finally, we had a conversation with the Minister of Finance, because the Minister of Finance himself got to understand that if these social workers are being employed, it means you reduce the unemployment rate, number one. Number two, we are also going to be able to deal with social ills long before they happen. Our view is that the social workers must be employed, and we are just almost there when we now have the Minister of Finance saying to us, let's sit, give us a document, tell us how many social workers are needed to be employed, tell us even the salaries that these social workers. This discussion wasn't there before. Now the discussion is here. All the president needs to do is to come back to me and say, this is what you said to the people. Go to the Minister of Finance and say, you said you were having a conversation with the minister. I want the report.
Now, just lastly, this is the 4th Imbizo for the year. I just want to get your sense in terms of what's it doing to the community. Is it at least socially uplifting the community and giving them a sense of hope for the future?
Remember, there was an issue towards even the elections where it was said there's a distance between government and communities. It was the research that was coming out indicating that if we are not going to go and talk to the communities, but of course, you've got to go beyond the talking. If you're not talking to communities and you are creating a distance with the communities are not going to believe you. So the president decided on doing this Imbizo so that the communities are able to be given an opportunity to speak out for themselves. And you finally saw that he ended up being the one who has to handle it for himself, because he wanted to make sure that everybody who is here is able to speak. This conversation is a conversation that must not be a once-off just because there was a president Imbizo. It's my task now as a Minister of Social Development to say, I got the issues that are related to social development. I had the officials here who were taking all the details. When do we come back here again to say to the people, from a point of view of social development, these are the things that we need to do? I was happy that today we didn't have so much that came out from a department for the Department of Social Development. It was people with disability, which I think we still need to deal with. And again, that one is beyond the Department of Social Development. They came here, the transport is very difficult for them to get here. Then it was the issue of social workers. Those were the two main things. But one last one, which I thought was very important, it was the one of cooperatives who were saying, we are cooperatives. We can make the uniforms. SASSA can buy the uniforms from us, and that one we took the details because I think it's important for us to empower those cooperatives so that they can grow their businesses.
All right, thank you very much. Social Development Minister Aviwe Mtila there, just at the backdrop, of course, of that presidential Imbizo, the 4th one, and of course promises made. It's only time that will tell if those promises will turn into realistic goals that we see on the ground.
Thank you very much, Aviwe Mtila there in Sedibeng.